My name is Deb Rivera, and I will be the host for today's webinar. And in that capacity, I will be assisting my colleague Tyson Weister by monitoring and also sending helpful links via the chat. I'd like to open today's webinar with just a few quick notes. Today's session is going to be shorter and more focused than our typical one-hour webinars. Today our session is scheduled for 30 minutes, and Tyson will be talking exclusively about the latest updates that have been pushed to our data platform. So we will not be doing a full walkthrough of data.census.gov per se, just focusing on the newest features. Now, if you are interested in getting an overview of data.census.gov, I invite you to check out a previous webinar that we hosted September 9th. It was called A Comprehensive Overview, where a presenter takes participants on a walkthrough of the data platform. However, that is not what we will be doing here today. I will be sure to send the link to that webinar presentation via the chat in case some of you are interested in watching that now. Now, one last note, we will be having a brief Q&A session over the phone lines at the end of the presentation. However, you are welcome to send questions or feedback via the chat feature. We may not have an opportunity to get to all of the questions. However, we will do our very best to reply to those over the next couple of days. And now I'd like to hand things off to our presenter for today, Tyson Weister. Thank you, Tyson.
Thanks, Deb, and thank you all so much for joining. As Deb said, my name is Tyson. We both work on the communications team for data.census.gov, and we are very excited to showcase the latest updates that we've made to the site. This webinar will focus exclusively on those updates. I'm going to show you what they are in a list in PowerPoint form, and then we're going to take a short demo of some of the highlights and show you what they look like on the live site before we do the Q&A period. As a reminder, everything that we're doing on data.census.gov is based on user feedback. So we continue to collect feedback, we analyze the feedback, prioritize what we're going to work on first, and then start to incorporate and test those sets of improvements. We release them about every 2 months, so we wanted to thank you all so much for the feedback that you've sent so far to us. That helps drive these updates, and then once again invite you to continue to send feedback on an ongoing basis. With that, we've had a number of improvements over the last 2 months. So we gave a webinar in September that showed a walkthrough of the site. Since then, we've released some updates in October as well as today that we're going to walk through. Those updates have made some changes in terms of the customized table ribbon. So the way that you can export and print some of the data on our site has been made easier, as well as the output. We'll show you what that looks like. We made some updates to the filters. Our maps are more clickable and interactive in more places. We have new unstructured search. We'll talk more about what that means. And then we also pushed out some improved messaging, as well as the ability to deep link to filtered table views and resolve some defects. So let's take a look at each of these one by one so you can get a clear understanding as to the improvements that we've pushed out. One of the ones that I'm really excited about is the enhanced customized table ribbon. So when you're in the full table view on data.census.gov, you'll notice the ribbon at the top has a lot of buttons for you to make additional modifications to your table or to get more information like table notes or more data. One of the updates that we pushed out was making some of these buttons half-sized. For example, you can see print and more data being stacked on top of each other. That just allows us to show more controls in one view to you at once. So they're just a click away and they're in sight, easy to access. With that, we also added a brand new button for export. So these print and export buttons are now clickable for the first time on the site. Previously, you would have had to know keyboard shortcuts or right-click the table in order to get the information in this format. So this just shows once you click on export and go to export to Excel, We've also made, based on your feedback, a lot of improvements to what the output of the export looks like. So generally speaking, the export gives you a view that looks similar to what you saw on the table display on data.census.gov, but in Excel format. In the past, we just had the data via export. Now you get all of the qualifying information, so you have that at hand. You get the table ID, the survey or program, as well as the type of table, and the year that this data comes from, as well as the table notes, and then, of course, the key data that's there for you. One of the other updates that we pushed out to the site in terms of the filters, making it easier to select some of the search criteria you're looking for, are the ability to select collections of detailed population groups in one click. These checkboxes are available for detailed population groups by race, Hispanic origin, ancestry, and country of birth. We have just a few examples here shown on the slide. And just to look at what this means, here I've showed one specific example where we've checked the box for all available detailed Asian races, and then you go to the table view where you can see data for population groups in the column, like Asian Indian alone, Bangladeshi alone, and so on. There are 43 available detailed Asian groups for this particular table. In the past, you would have had to select each of these groups individually. You can now select them by checking one box. And another thing that we've done is expand our map functionality to be more interactive on more places in the site. So our map widgets, these are the maps that are featured in our geography profiles and that are shareable. You can now interact and click on those on the map. So here on the screen, we're looking at an income for Maryland. You can see we clicked on a particular county and we see the median income value, as well as the label for that geography. Another update is new unstructured search. When we say unstructured search, what we're referring to is the search that powers the pages section of data.census.gov. These are all of your search results that link to content on census.gov, whether that's the website, technical documentation, reports, etc. We are now powering this directly with the search on our site. This brings us one step closer to integrating with census.gov. Please remember that the long-term goal for data.census.gov is that it doesn't need to be a separate site. It can just be the search bar that's filtered on, or that's featured on census.gov. So you wouldn't need to know to go to another website. You would just go to census.gov, run your search in the search bar, and then you would get the experience that you're currently getting on data.census.gov, where you have the data, tables, maps, and web pages all in one search experience without having to know to go to that separate site. We're not there yet, but in launching this part of new unstructured search brings us one step closer to getting there. With that in mind, this is our first launch for having that powered directly with our side of the site, and know that we're continuing to work to add relevancy, improvements over future releases, and we'll keep you updated as we work towards that. Another update based on your feedback is that we've added better organization for zip code tabulation areas. So you can now go through the filter panel, select the zip code tabulation area. In the past, you would have got a long list of all of the zip code tabulation areas in the United States. We've now featured to break that out by state. With that said, this is one step in the right direction towards hopefully working towards getting those checkboxes that would allow you to select all ZICTAs in a state in one click. We're not there yet, but that's where we're working towards with these updates. Based on feedback, we've also improved some of the messaging on the site. In an instance where you run a search that has no search results, here as an example on the screen on the left, we've searched for election, but we don't have any tables on data.census.gov related to election, so you get a no results found error message. We've also launched new messaging today. If you use an unsupported browser, as an example, Internet Explorer, you'll get a pop-up that will allow you to continue to go to the site, but will notify you that you aren't using a supported browser. The list of supported browsers are linked in that particular message, and I've also listed them out here on the slide. We do continue to recommend Google Chrome as the preferred browser. The other browsers are also supported. And for those of you that are interested in our economic tables and sharing the results from those tables with other users, you'll be pleased to know that we've added the ability to deep link to filtered table views. So to kind of break this down a little bit, where we're starting at is a screenshot here. I've showed you one of our most popular economic surveys and programs from County Business Patterns. This particular default table view shows data broken out by legal form of organization, as well as the employment size of the establishment. What this means is that for each individual NAICS code, you could be seeing up to 80 rows of data for that one NAICS code. For users that want all of that additional detail, that may be helpful. However, you may be interested in something more high level than all of those data rows. You can see this table has 1,405 rows of data. We've always offered, for the last number of releases, the ability to filter that, but what we've added is your ability to manually deep link a filtered table view. So the way that you do that is through what we're calling non-key dimensions. And what you do is just add at the end of the URL, ampersand, NKD, an equal sign. Then you put the variable name, as an example, legal form of organization, LFO, the squiggle, and then the value you want to filter by. Here we have 001, corresponding to all establishments. If you'd like to filter by more than one type of non-key dimension, you can simply put in a comma and then continue to add additional variable names and the values that you want to filter by. So what we're seeing here is we filtered this table to show results for all establishments across both of those variables. So we've reduced the view for our table from 1,400 data rows to just 21 data rows, where we have the high-level totals for one data row for each NAICS code if we'd like to look at annual payroll and the other data for this particular NAICS code in this table. We're not going to walk through this process on the live site. It's a little bit complex and just for more limited set of users, but we do have links that we're sharing in the chat and are listed on the slides. On the left, you'll have the list of supported variables that you can use non-key dimensions with in the URL, as well as an FAQ that walks through this process. As with every release, we also fix bugs on our site. We've fixed a total of 36 different defects. 2 of them that we were getting the most questions about from users that we fixed is a fix that allows you to see data for more than one zip code tabulation area at a time on screen, and also a fix to make sure that when you're going through the download process, that the year you've selected during that process matches what you get in the download output. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the live site so we can dig into some of these highlights a little bit deeper. And through the demonstration, we're going to start by looking at the collections of detailed population groups and that new export format. To show this, I'm going to use the sex by age example for all detailed Asian population groups. Going to the site, we'll want to make sure to use Google Chrome as the preferred browser. And I'm going to run this search through an advanced search. All detailed Asian groups, we'll find that under topics. And Asian is what we consider a race at the Census Bureau. So I'll click race and ethnicity. See an option for Asian. And then you can continue to get more detail, but there's this box that has code 04, all available detailed Asian races. Many of these checkboxes were available on the site before. We've now made them clickable and done all of the back-end work so you can actually see the data that are relevant to these checkboxes. I'm going to click Search in the lower right and Tables in the upper left. I'm going to choose the second table result, sex by age, and then click on Customize Table in the upper right. So we can kind of look at that export process. You'll notice you have the new Customize Table ribbon that has the clickable full-size export. This is what we found a lot of users weren't able to find on the site. They were going to download. Download is a great format if you want to map, sort, or manipulate the data. But if you want to view the data off the site, what you want is export. So we've made that more prominent. And then you'll choose your file format. Most folks would want to export to Excel. So we open up that exported file, and then we see what we get now. Fully qualified information. Some of your details are at the top. Doesn't take long to get into the data, just as you saw it on screen. If you made any customizations, that would be reflected in your export output. And then also you can see additional information, including the year. One of my favorite features that it includes the link to your table. So I'm going to copy that, as well as your table notes. So that link to your table, if you decide you want to come access this information in the future, you have it in your exported file. You can share it with a colleague or paste it in your address bar and get right back where you were on the site. Moving on to our second example, just want to show you the clickable map in our widget. And we're going to use the geography profile for Maryland as an example. To start my search over, I'll click the U.S. Census logo. And I'm going to run a search for a geography. Typing in Maryland and press Enter. Geography profiles are accessible by clicking the blue box on the right side of your screen within the All Results page. And you can scroll through the information here. I'm going to click directly on income and poverty because I know it takes me to a map of data to show you this new feature. You can now click on the different counties on the map, see the data value and the geography name. Do know that these widgets are shareable, and they're shareable in a couple different ways. So we'll click on the Share Export button underneath. You can share as a regular link, or if you have your own website and you want the iframe to embed this widget into your site, that option is available to you. I use the first link just to show you if you decide to copy the link to this widget, it's saving this exact map for median household income, and any users that you share the link with or embed on the website will also be able to click on this map and interact with it. And finally, just want to take you briefly through the unstructured search. Going back to the live site, I'll click the U.S. Census logo in the upper left and then run the search. We're just going to do a basic search for poverty and press Enter. Again, the unstructured content is what you see under Pages. These are all links to census.gov, web pages, reports, technical documentation. I'll just click on the first couple to show you. We'll click Small Area Income and Poverty. See that this first link gives us a data visualization for childhood poverty over time. The second link, deconstructing poverty rates among 65 and older population. You can see that this takes us to one of our recent reports on poverty. And you can continue to scroll through and click on the different options that are available. Know that we are continuing to add the relevancy updates in the future. All of these enhancements are dependent on your feedback, and we wanted to remind you there are a couple ways you can share it. One is by emailing us. We encourage you to check out data.census.gov regularly and send us your feedback as we continually update the site, and you just email us, sedsi.feedback@census.gov. We're also wrapping up data collection from a recent survey where you can tell us about your experience on data.census.gov. We'll include a link to the bottom and the chat. It just gives you an opportunity to provide your information in a more structured way, as well as providing detailed comments that get at a variety of questions about your satisfaction on the site and how we can make it work better for you. So please, if you could do that survey today or tomorrow, we would greatly appreciate that. And we'll go ahead and start opening it up for questions.
Thank you. We will now begin our question and answer session. If you'd like to ask a question, please press star one. Please unmute your phone and record your name slowly and clearly when prompted. Your name is required to introduce your question. Again, that's star one if you'd like to ask a question. One moment, please.
And while we're waiting for questions to come in, we just wanted to also remind you about some additional opportunities for you. One is the data.census.gov resources page that we've linked to in the upper left. It's also when you're on the landing page where that help button goes to. When you go to that web page, you'll be able to access data gems or short video tutorials where you can learn more about how to use the site, full-length webinars, release notes where we provide the latest updates, as well as a comprehensive walkthrough of the functionality on data.census.gov, and our news and updates where we post every time we have a code release to improve the site and each time we have a data release. The second link listed here on this slide for Census Academy is also the great way to get training from across the Census Bureau and access not only things that are necessarily relevant to particular ways of accessing data like data.census.gov, but just training in general across the Census Bureau. It's the centralized training hub. Do we have questions in the queue yet, operator?
Our first question comes from Jenny Groom. Your line is open.
Hi, I've taken a few of the data.census.gov sessions, and one thing that I know librarians have asked for repeatedly is to be able to export into PDF, because we need static documents for a lot of our reference questions. Is that going to be an option at any point? It was a great feature of FactFinder.
That's great feedback for us and a great example of the kinds of things that users do and that we hope they email us to at sedsi.feedback@census.gov. I do know that
I brought it up on several of these webinars.
Yeah, it's something that we definitely take into consideration and prioritize. Some of that is the improved export format that hits at what some users need in terms of the fully qualified information. There are some additional updates that we're planning for exports. I'm not aware of anything for PDF at this time in the near future, but we would definitely welcome your comments as well as from other data users.
Okay. This is like Federal Depository Library documents, librarians who have, I will bring it up to them, and you may be hearing from a lot more of us. I'm going to get off the conference at this point because that was my question.
Thanks for your feedback.
Thanks.
Thank you. Our next question comes from David Huskins. Your line is open.
Thank you. I've used AFF a lot when I do a lot of white papers for nonprofits. And what I really need is zip code data. And the zip code tabulation areas work because outside of demography, nobody knows what a census tract is. And about a month ago, I was trying to get ACS zip code data, and I couldn't get anything very detailed. The ACS basically is the old long form, and I'm looking at education and poverty particularly, and I couldn't get a lot. So I went back to the SF3 2000 because we're creating a longitudinal thing on students. And a lot of that wasn't there either. And I'm just wondering, is it there and I'm just not searching for it? It was relatively easy to get on AFF. Or is it, kind of like low importance data that's not up yet? Any pointers would be really welcome.
Okay, great. That's a great question. I think if you're having specific issues accessing it after this call, definitely that would be a good thing to email us. We get lots of folks asking for this. There has been no change in terms of what's available for zip code tabulation areas from the American Community Survey from what was released on American Fact Finder versus what was released on data.census.gov. So if you're having trouble not being able to find something on our site that you were able to find in the past in regards to that, please do email us, but do please to make sure as you're accessing the information, you'll want to go to advanced search and you'll want to go to geography and use the zip code tabulation area. Give that a start if you haven't already, and then if not, please email us at fedsci.feedback@census.gov and we'll walk you through in more specifics. Other questions, operator?
Thank you. Our next question comes from Elaine Jardine. Your line is open.
Hi, yes. During your demonstration of starting at search and building a filter and then, going to the table and customizing table, then export, I think the last thing that you covered was how to save a filter for future use, and I missed how you did that. Can you demonstrate that again?
Oh, sure. I was just showing the when you export the data, you get a lot of information, and when you scroll through it, there will be a part that says web address.
Okay.
And you can copy that link. This link saves your specific table view that this exported data comes from.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's what I missed.
You're welcome.
Our next question comes from John Russell. Your line is open.
Thank you. Excuse me. This is a really basic question. I would use American Fact Finder a lot in the past, and as soon as you'd call the site up, right at the top it would have a space where you could put in what your city was, and it would give you dozens of choices on things to choose from about your city. But I've not been able to do that with data.census.gov, and I'm sure it's my fault and not your fault, but is there an easy way to do a similar thing, get your city right off the bat?
That's a great question. So we have not added search disambiguation, which is what you're describing on American Fact Finder. So what you would need to do on data.census.gov is you can give this single search bar a try. You may find it helpful to put your city name, type a comma in the state name. That may or may not be helpful to you, but just tweaking the wording as best as you can. But you're not going to be able to put a single city in this box and currently have a pop-up and say, did you mean my city in Alabama or in California or in Georgia? That functionality is not on the site. So if you're having trouble using this to get your city, that's when we would recommend going to the advanced search, because it allows you to precisely select your geography. Cities are found under the place level, and sometimes you would find them under county subdivision is what people would think of as their city in certain states in the Northeast and the Midwest. So those are my 2 pointers on how to best use the site right now, but thank you for your feedback on how we can make the search better.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Dana Burnett. Your line is open.
Yes, good afternoon. I was curious, the tables, when you export them out into Excel, does it export the entire table or is it the visible page? Some online programs are funny that way. I was just curious.
That's a great question. I believe it's the entire table, but I would have to honestly test it on some of those larger tables to confirm that before I could give you a definite answer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Matt Decker. Your line is open.
Hi. Yeah, so I've been trying to figure out how to get the variable codes from data.census.gov. So by code, I'm referring to the I forget how many digits and letters it is, but it's the sort of thing that you call if you're calling data from the API. Sometimes I like to be able to compare the data that I get from the API to what I can see on the census site. So is there a way to get those variable codes through data.census.gov? Thanks.
I think I'm understanding your question, but I think I'm going to show it on the live site. And also I'd like to add to the answer that I gave to the last question. For those larger tables, and it kind of relates to this question, you can download the data, and that will give you the full information for sure, not just what you're seeing on any one page. And download functionality for those large tables is generally going to look very similar to the export functionality. In terms of this question, I also wanted to show, because it hits on download, I'm just pulling up a quick table here. And when you go through the process to download, I think what you're referring to are how do you find the API codes for those variables. Opening up this downloaded file, you'll just see that they are in row 2 of that output. We'll give it just a moment to load up. It has the old, but you can see the variable description. We can see for this table, total households is the first one, but that very first row is the same API call, and that's really where we're going with data.census.gov. Is the API is powering what we do, and we're trying to make better connections between both data access points.
Okay, wonderful. So it's just the first row of the export there. Okay, I see that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Tammy Normalstein. Your line is open.
Hi. First of all, thank you so much for the export feature, because when the site launched and I could not find an export feature, I literally spent hours trying to turn tables into formats that were a little bit easier for me to use. So again, thank you very much. On Fact Finder, when I was doing searches, and I routinely search variables across approximately 140 zip codes, I was able to create a list that I could keep coming back to for all of the different variables. I could just hit a button and have all my zip codes. Earlier in the year, I worked with some folks, and they showed me how to add the zip codes to the end of the URLs, and I saved all of those, but then when I went back to use them, every link said it was invalid. So if I'm routinely searching across multiple geographic areas, what is available on the site, or is there plans to do something like what Fact Finder had, where we could save locally that search and add it into all of our other searches?
That's a great question. So there is some functionality. If you could email us at fedsci.feedback@census.gov, there is a FAQ that walks through how to save your exact table view or how to save a general search, which that's the one that you want. So I want to give you the link to that FAQ. And then just as a note, there is a limit to the overall size of the URL. It's not based on the exact number of geographies, but as a rule of thumb, I like to recommend not adding any more than 70 geographies in one individual search, because once you start adding more than that, each geography that you're individually adding that represents a single checkbox is just increasing the size of the URL. And once you hit the limit, you just won't be able to see any data, and the site will freeze or give you error messages. So I want to give you that information for the FAQ, and then also as a note, you'll need to break that up into 2 separate searches because you have 140 zip code areas.
And I hopefully I'm still open. And I did that. I had multiple links, but every single one of them came back as invalid. And they were I was using the age and sex table just as my base, and then I would copy the endings to the different tables. But every single link came back. And I set these up in, I guess, March. So I don't know if something changed with the formatting of the URL between March and now that rendered other parts of the links invalid, but I struggled with that. Do I have time to ask
those exact links?
I'm sorry?
Email us those exact links and we'll be able to help you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our last question comes from Rung Farley. Your line is open.
Thank you very much. You gave a very lucid demonstration of how to draw a map for Maryland showing income by counties. There are two questions I have. One is, can you do that for smaller geographic areas such as census tracts or minor civil divisions? And secondly, if I want a map that just shows the state of Maryland and not to grade out areas in Virginia and West Virginia, can I produce a map that is exclusively Maryland? Thank you very much. This is an informative presentation.
Thank you so much for your question. There is definitely functionality to create maps for different geographic areas. And if you actually visit the link that Deb shared for the walkthrough webinar that we did in September, we do walk through some mapping functionality. I believe it's at the census tract level. So that would be something I would recommend checking out in terms of how to do it. I will say, though, that for your second part of the question, you do not have the option to remove those other areas from your map. So you will get a full map of the United States that just zooms into the area that you selected, and you will continue to see those other areas grayed out.
All right, Tyson, we have no more questions.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I guess we'll just wrap up. I just wanted to thank everyone once again for joining today. We do have additional resource data dissemination specialists with contact information that provide centralized training for the Census Bureau as well as free data training requests. So if you're interested in that, their contact information is listed here, as well as a link. We want to make sure that these webinars are useful to you, so we would appreciate if you could take a moment to fill out an evaluation for this webinar. Thank you all once again, and we hope to see you on some future trainings.
That concludes today's conference. Thank you for participating. You may disconnect at this time.